They put my childhood dog on the family legacy wall. They put my brother there 6 times. They even put my nephews there, and one of them was still young enough to write his name backward. But they did not put me there once. Not as a baby, not in my graduation gown, not behind the counter at the hardware store I helped keep open every summer since I was 14. Not even in the Christmas photo, where I was the one standing on the ladder hanging garland, while my brother stood below me smiling like he had done all the work. I stood in the entrance of Millbrook Pines Banquet Hall, holding a gold anniversary card in my hand. 40 years of love, the card said. And for the first time in my life, I wondered if love had ever included me. Then my mother saw me. Her smile disappeared for half a second before she forced it back onto her face. "Oh," she said, "you came. Not Claire, honey. Not we saved you a seat. Not even a hug." Then she leaned close, her pearl earrings brushing against her neck, and whispered, "Please don't make tonight awkward." That was how I knew. My family hadn't just forgotten me. They had planned the whole night around pretending I was barely part of them. And before that night was over, a medical helicopter would land on the golf course outside that banquet hall. The windows would shake, every phone in the room would come out, and the same people who laughed at me would finally learn exactly who they had been erasing. My name is Claire Whitaker. Before I got married, before I built a life outside that town, before people started calling me Director Whitaker over emergency radio channels, I was Claire Lawson. In Millbrook, Ohio, the Lawson name meant something. Not because we were rich. We weren't. We didn't live behind gates. We didn't own vacation homes. Nobody in my family wore designer clothes unless they found them on sale at Macy's after Christmas. We owned Lawson Hardware on Maple Street. That was enough. In a small Midwestern town, a hardware store can make a man feel like a king. My father, Don Lawson, opened the store with his father in 1984. Contractors came in before sunrise for Screw's Lumber Coffee and complaints about the weather. Church ladies bought paint samples and told my mother who was getting divorced. Little League coaches came in every spring for chalk nails and free advice. Dad loved that store. He loved the bell over the door. He loved the smell of sawdust. He loved the way people called him Mr. Lawson with respect. He loved saying, "This place is our legacy." But I learned early that legacy had rules. Ryan, my younger brother, inherited the glory. I inherited the work. When Ryan had baseball practice, I covered the register. When Ryan needed quiet to study, I restocked shelves. When Ryan forgot to help Grandma after her hip surgery, I cooked dinner and got told I was naturally better at caregiving. When Ryan smiled at customers, Dad said, "That boy was born for business." When I worked 12 hours on my feet, Mom said Claire has always been helpful. Helpful. That was the word they used when they didn't want to say valuable. By the time I was 17, I knew every aisle in that store better than Ryan did. I knew which contractors paid late. I knew which widowers came in pretending to need washers just because they were lonely. I knew which older customers needed someone to carry ice melt to their trunk without making them feel embarrassed. I thought that counted. It didn't. Ryan got framed photos behind the register. Ryan got his Little League trophies displayed beside the paint counter. Ryan got a write-up in the Millbrook Gazette for becoming student council treasurer. I got a handwritten note from Mom taped to the fridge. "Claire, please mop after closing. Ryan has SAT prep." The worst part was I used to be proud of that store. I used to write Lawson Hardware on my school notebooks like it was a family crest. When other kids said their dads were doctors or lawyers, I said mine could fix anything. I didn't know then that he would spend half my life pretending I was the one thing he couldn't fix. When I graduated high school with honors and told my parents I wanted to become a paramedic, my father stared at me like I had thrown the family Bible into the trash. "Ambulances," he said. I still remember the way he said it, like the words smelled bad. I told him I wanted to help people when they were scared, hurt, and desperate. He leaned back in his chair and shook his head. "So you're choosing sirens over a real future?" My mother didn't yell. That almost made it worse. She folded a dish towel in her hands and said, "People will ask why you didn't go to college like normal girls." Normal girls. That was the first time I realized my parents didn't want me to be happy. They wanted me to be easy to explain. I did it anyway. I became an EMT, then a paramedic, then an ER nurse, then a flight nurse. Eventually, I became a regional emergency response director for 3 counties. That meant when a tornado touched down, when black ice caused a pileup, when a school bus rolled into a ditch, or when a farmer got pinned under equipment 20 miles from the nearest trauma center, I was often the calm voice on the radio telling everyone where to go, who to move first, and how to keep people alive. People thought saving lives made me feel heroic. Most nights it just made me tired. But tired was easier to carry than unwanted. To my family, I was still just Claire. Claire who worked nights. Claire who missed Easter brunch because someone coded in the ER. Claire who couldn't come to Thanksgiving because a drunk driver crossed the center line. Claire who always looked tired in family photos. Then slowly I stopped appearing in the photos at all. The invitation to my parents' 40th anniversary party came by text from my mother. Saturday, 6 p.m. Millbrook Pines. Dress nice. Please don't wear scrubs. That was the whole message. No hope you can come. No, it would mean a lot. No, we miss you. Just the time, the place, and a warning not to embarrass her. I almost stayed home. I had worked 14 hours the night before. My feet hurt. My kitchen sink had dishes in it. I had a frozen lasagna and a couch that would not ask why I was still single, why I never visited enough, why I didn't make more of myself. But some small foolish part of me still wanted to believe there would be a chair for me. So I showered. I curled my hair. I put on a navy-wrapped dress, small pearl earrings, and the black heels I only wore when I wanted people to believe I had my life together. I even bought a card with gold lettering, 40 years of love. I sat in my car outside Millbrook Pines for 3 full minutes before going in. The parking lot was packed with pickup trucks, SUVs, and a few shiny cars from Columbus. Through the windows I could see warm lights, white tablecloths, balloons, flowers, and people standing around with drinks in their hands. For 1 weak second I imagined my mother seeing me and softening. I imagined Dad clearing his throat, uncomfortable but glad. I imagined Ryan saying, "Hey sis," like we were kids again, and he hadn't spent the last decade treating me like a distant cousin who owed him favors. Then I opened the door. The first thing I saw was the seating chart. Lawson, anniversary celebration. 40 years of marriage, family, faith, and legacy. There were 18 tables. My parents were at table 1. Ryan, his wife Ashley. Their boys, the pastor and the mayor, were at table 1. Old friends were at tables 2 through 6. Church people were at tables 7 through 10. Hardware store customers were at tables 11 through 15. I searched for my name. Then I found it. Table 18, near the kitchen, under additional guests. Not family, not daughter, additional guest. My name wasn't even written as Claire Whitaker. It said Claire L. Like I was an afterthought they squeezed in after confirming the dessert count. I stood there too long. A woman from church touched my arm. Claire, Mrs. Donnelly said, blinking like she had seen a ghost. My goodness, I didn't know you were coming. I smiled because that is what women like me are trained to do when our hearts are cracking in public. Hi, Mrs. Donnelly. She hugged me quickly, then lowered her voice. I didn't see you on the program. Of course she didn't. My mother appeared before I could answer. She wore a champagne-colored dress pearl necklace and the expression she saved for problems that needed to be moved out of sight before guests noticed. Oh, she said. You came. I told you I would, I said. Did you? She glanced at the seating chart. Well, good. We had to finalize everything weeks ago, so I hope you found your table. Weeks ago. She had invited me 3 weeks ago. I found it, I said. Wonderful. She touched my elbow without actually holding me. Your father is busy greeting people and Ryan is about to give a toast, so just settle in, okay? Then she leaned closer. And Claire, I looked at her. She lowered her voice. Tonight is important to your father. Please don't make anything awkward. I almost laughed. I had walked in quietly carrying a card, but somehow my existence already needed managing. My father saw me near the photo wall. For a moment, I thought he might come over. Instead, he lifted his chin. Claire, he said. That was all. No hug. No kiss on the cheek. No, you look nice. I held out the anniversary card. Happy anniversary, Dad. He took it without looking at the envelope. Thanks. Then he turned to a man in a sports coat and said, So anyway, Ryan has really modernized the store. Online ordering, a new inventory system, the whole thing. He's taking Lawson hardware into the next generation. I stood there holding nothing. Then I looked at the legacy wall. 4 large boards leaned on easels near the entrance. The Lawson family through the years. There was my parents' wedding photo, the hardware store grand opening, Ryan's first day of kindergarten, Ryan in a baseball uniform, Ryan in a cap and gown, Ryan and Ashley cutting their wedding cake, Ryan's boys holding toy hammers, even Max, our golden retriever, wearing a Santa hat. My throat tightened. I searched every board. Nothing. No baby photo of me. No school photo. No graduation picture. No photo of me behind the register. No picture from the summer I ran the store while Dad recovered from knee surgery. Not one. The dog had made the wall. I had not. Dinner started. I walked to table 18. It was close enough to the kitchen that every time the door swung open, I smelled gravy coffee and dishwasher steam. My chair wobbled. The centerpiece was smaller than the others. One of the guests at my table, a man from Dad's bowling league, looked at my place card and said, "You're Kathy, right?" "Claire," I said. He snapped his fingers. Right. The nurse one. The nurse one. I looked toward table 1. Ryan was laughing with the mayor. Ashley was fixing one of her son's bow ties. My mother had her hand on my father's shoulder. From far away, they looked like a perfect family. I wondered how many perfect families were just careful arrangements of who got placed in the light and who was left near the kitchen doors. The slideshow began during salad. Soft piano music played. Photos faded across the big screen. Mom and Dad's wedding. The hardware store opening. Ryan on a bike. Ryan at a baseball game. Ryan at graduation. Ryan and Ashley's wedding. Ryan's sons behind the store counter. Then came a Christmas photo from the hardware store. I knew that photo. I was 17 when it was taken. I had spent 3 hours decorating the store because Mom wanted it to look magical for the holiday open house. I was on a ladder hanging garland over the paint section, while Ryan stood below holding a roll of ribbon he never used. But on the screen, the photo had been cropped. The ladder was gone. I was gone. Only Ryan remained smiling under the garland like he had created Christmas himself. People clapped. My stomach sank so hard I thought I might be sick. Across the room, Ryan leaned toward Ashley and whispered something. They both laughed. My phone buzzed. A text from Natalie Perez. Natalie had been my best friend in high school before life pulled us into different versions of adulthood. She now ran the Millbrook Library, which meant she knew everybody's secrets, because librarians hear everything and repeat almost nothing. "Are you at the party?" I typed. Unfortunately, 3 dots appeared. Then, "Come to the hallway by the coat rack. You need to see this." I slipped out during the soup course. Nobody noticed. Natalie stood near the coat rack in a dark green dress, holding her phone with both hands. Her face was tight with anger. Before she said anything, she hugged me. A real hug. The kind that makes you realize you've been holding your breath all night. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "For what?" She pulled back. "For them." Then she showed me her phone. It was a scanned email from 12 years earlier. The library had received old Millbrook High alumni records for digitizing, and this had been buried in a committee folder. The subject line read, "Regarding Claire Lawson recognition." The sender was my father. After careful family consideration, we ask that Claire Lawson not be included on the upcoming Distinguished Alumni display. While we respect her choices, her career path does not reflect the academic or business legacy our family has worked hard to represent in Millbrook. We would prefer the Lawson family recognition focus on Ryan Lawson and his continued commitment to the community. I read it once, then again, then a third time because my brain refused to accept the words in the order they appeared. Natalie swiped to another message. This one was from my mother to the Hospital Foundation after the Briar Creek flood rescue. When my team pulled 6 people from rising water during a storm, Claire has always been private and uncomfortable with attention. Please avoid using her name in any public announcement connected to our family. We do not want to create unnecessary awkwardness. Awkwardness. 6 people had lived. My mother called my name awkward. Natalie's voice shook. "I didn't know whether to show you tonight." But then I saw the photo wall and Claire. She stopped. She didn't need to finish. My parents had not simply failed to celebrate me. They had stepped in front of other people trying to recognize me and said, "Please don't." Politely, calmly, with complete sentences. That kind of betrayal doesn't scream. It signs its name at the bottom of an email. I handed the phone back. My fingers felt numb. "I need a minute," I said. I went into the restroom, locked myself in a stall, and stood there breathing the way I taught new medics to breathe after their first bad call. In through 4. Hold. Out through 6. Panic spreads faster than fire. Control your voice. Control your hands. Do the next necessary thing. But what is the next necessary thing when the emergency is your own mother and father erasing you in slow motion for 20 years? When I returned to the ballroom, dessert plates were being served. No one had touched my cake. No one had saved me coffee. No one asked where I had been. The speeches began. The pastor spoke first. He talked about faith marriage and the beauty of a family rooted in loyalty. Then the mayor praised Lawson Hardware as a cornerstone of Millbrook. Then Ryan stood up. The room clapped before he said a word. He held the microphone with one hand and put the other over his heart like he had practiced humility in the mirror. "Mom, Dad," he said, "everything I am comes from you." My mother dabbed her eyes. My father nodded proudly. Ryan continued, "You taught me that legacy isn't just a name. It's staying. It's showing up. It's choosing family over chasing excitement somewhere else." My fork stopped moving. Natalie looked at me from 2 tables away. Ryan smiled, letting the words hang. "Some people leave home and call it purpose. But real commitment is staying where people count on you." A few people murmured approval. My father clapped first. Of course he did. Ryan's eyes found me at the back of the room. Then he smiled into the microphone. "And hey, we love Claire too. She's always had a big heart. If there's a siren anywhere in the county, she'll find a way to make it her story." A few people laughed. Ryan raised his glass slightly. "Careful, everyone. If Claire hears an emergency, she might turn even Mom and Dad's anniversary into one of her rescue scenes." More laughter. Ashley covered her mouth, pretending not to enjoy it. My face stayed still. Then Dad took the microphone. He had that flushed, pleased look he got after 2 bourbons and a room full of people treating him like a wise man. "Ryan said it right," Dad began. "Legacy isn't about running off the second life gets hard. It's about building something that lasts." He looked toward the back of the room, at me. For the first time all night, my father truly saw me. Not with love, with opportunity. "And yes," he said, chuckling, "we do have our daughter Claire here tonight. She works in emergency services. Ambulances, hospitals, sirens, that kind of thing." And a few people laughed politely. Dad smiled wider. "Important work, sure. Somebody has to do it." But Ryan stayed and built something real. The room laughed again. A man near the bar said, "Hey, don't knock sirens. They get you through traffic." More laughter. My mother took the microphone next. For one desperate second, I thought she might fix it. I thought she might say, "We're proud of both our children." Instead, she tilted her head and gave the delicate little laugh she used when she wanted cruelty to sound like manners. "Claire has always been independent," she said. "Sometimes too independent. But we're glad she found something that suits her." Something. Not a calling. Not a career. Something. Then she turned back toward Ryan. "And we are so blessed that Ryan kept the Lawson name where it belongs." Applause filled the room. I looked down at my hands. They were steady. That surprised me. The younger version of me would have cried. She would have run to the parking lot, driven home, sat on the kitchen floor, and replayed every word until morning. But I was not that girl anymore. I had stood in freezing rain beside overturned cars. I had held pressure on wounds while family members screamed behind me. I had told panicking firefighters to listen to my voice and move exactly when I said move. My father's microphone could wound me, but it could not make me disappear. Then my phone buzzed. This time it wasn't Natalie. It was dispatch. "Multi-vehicle incident. County Road 9, near Millbrook Pines. School bus involved. Command requesting air medical coordination. Are you available?" The room was still laughing. Cake was still being passed. My brother was still glowing at the front table under the lights my parents had built for him. But somewhere less than 2 miles away, children were scared in the dark. My whole body changed. The hurt did not vanish. It stepped aside. I typed back, "I'm on site. Send details." Seconds later, my phone rang. I stood and walked toward the hallway. Ryan noticed. Of course he did. Leaving already, he called loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "That's Claire. Always dramatic." People chuckled. I stopped. For years, I would have lowered my eyes and kept walking. Not tonight. I turned back. "I'm going to work," I said. Ryan smirked. "At Mom and Dad's anniversary party." "Yes," I said. "At Mom and Dad's anniversary party." Ryan laughed. "You always needed emergencies to feel important." The sentence hit the room with a lightness that made it crueler. My father stepped toward me, annoyed. "Claire, sit down. Don't make this about you." That sentence hit harder than the jokes. Don't make this about you. The family motto. The rule I had lived under since I was old enough to carry a broom in the hardware store. I looked at him. "That's the problem, Dad," I said quietly. "It was never allowed to be about me. Not even the truth." His smile disappeared. "What's that supposed to mean?" Before I could answer, the helicopter sound rolled over the building. Low, heavy, unmistakable. The chandeliers trembled. Forks rattled against plates. Every conversation stopped. Outside the tall windows, Red and white lights flashed across the golf course. Emergency vehicles lined the fairway. A LifeFlight helicopter descended through the cold night air, its spotlight sweeping across the banquet hall lawn. Guests rushed to the windows. Phones came out. Someone gasped. "Is that landing here?" The helicopter touched down hard enough to shake the floor. Rotor wind slapped against the glass. Napkins lifted from tables. A child started crying. The man who had joked about ambulance drivers looked down at his cake like it had suddenly become very interesting. The mayor slowly lowered his glass. My mother's pearl necklace trembled against her throat. Ryan stared at the helicopter lights, like the night had stopped obeying him. Then the side doors opened. 2 firefighters came in, first clearing space. Behind them was Captain Mason Reed, from Millbrook Fire, still wearing turnout pants, his jacket streaked with rain and road dust. He scanned the room. When he saw me, his whole face changed with relief. He walked straight past my father, past Ryan, past the mayor, past the pastor, straight to me. "Director Whitaker," he said loud enough for the room to hear, "we've got 3 critical, 1 pediatric entrapment, and 2 birds inbound. Command is requesting you at staging." The room froze. "Director." My mother's mouth opened. Ryan blinked like he had lost the script. My father stared at Mason. Mason handed me a radio. "Your call." I took it. My voice came out calm, clear, and nothing like the embarrassed daughter they had been mocking 5 minutes earlier. "LifeFlight 1. This is Whitaker at Millbrook Pines staging. Primary landing zone secure. Send LifeFlight 2 to the east fairway. Ground units hold pediatric red tag for first lift unless airway changes. Confirm extrication status." The radio crackled. "Copy, Director. Pediatric patient still pinned, airway stable. ETA extrication 6 minutes. "Understood," I said. "Prep warm blankets and pediatric kit at transfer. Keep family members clear of rotor zone. I'm coming out." Every person in that banquet hall was staring now. I felt it. But I did not look at them. Not yet. A woman near table 5 whispered, "Director of what?" Mason answered before I could. "Regional Emergency Medical Response. She coordinates major incidents for 3 counties." Silence. Then Natalie's voice cut through the room. "She's been saving this town for years while some of you were laughing at her for working in ambulances." My mother went pale. Ryan's jaw tightened. Dad tried to recover first. "Claire," he said too loudly, "why didn't you tell us it was that serious?" I looked at him then. Really looked. At the man who had taught me to sweep corners properly, count change twice, and never cry in front of customers. "I did," I said. "You never listened." The room stayed silent. Then Dana Holt stepped forward. Dana wrote for the Millbrook Gazette. She had been interviewing guests all evening because the mayor was giving my parents a community service plaque. While everyone was staring at the helicopter lights, Natalie must have shown her the emails. Dana held her phone in one hand, her face careful but firm. "Mr. Lawson," she said, "is it true you asked Millbrook High not to include Claire in the Distinguished Alumni display?" My mother gripped the back of a chair. Dad's face turned dark red. "What kind of question is that?" Dana did not flinch. "I was shown copies of emails tonight. One from your account saying Claire's career did not reflect the Lawson family legacy. Another from Mrs. Lawson asking the hospital foundation not to publicly name Claire after the Briar Creek flood rescue." The room gasped. A real gasp. The kind that pulls air from the walls. My father looked at me like I had betrayed him. That was the most incredible part. He had erased me, mocked me, cropped me out, let a whole room laugh at me. And still he looked wounded because the truth had embarrassed him. "Claire," he said under his breath, "did you do this?" "No," I said. "You did." My mother stepped toward me and grabbed my arm. Her fingers were cold. "Please," she whispered. "Not here." I looked down at her hand. For years I had wanted that hand to reach for me, to pull me into photos, to squeeze my shoulder with pride, to wave from an audience. Now it reached for me only because she was afraid people were watching. I gently removed her fingers. "That's the first time tonight you cared who saw me," I said. Her eyes filled, maybe with shame, maybe with panic, maybe both. Ryan stepped in, voice low and sharp. "You're really going to humiliate Mom and Dad at their anniversary." I turned to him. For the first time I saw my brother clearly, not as the golden child, not as the little boy I used to protect, just a man who had benefited from my absence and called it loyalty. "No, Ryan," I said. "I'm going to a crash scene. The humiliation is what they built while I was gone." The radio crackled again. Director Whitaker, pediatric patient extricated. Requesting immediate lift. My heart snapped back to where it belonged. I'm on my way. Mason held the door open. Cold rotor wind rushed into the banquet hall. My dress whipped around my knees. My heels sank into the damp grass as I crossed toward the flashing lights. Behind me, the banquet hall glowed like a dollhouse full of stunned faces. At the edge of the fairway, I looked back once. Through the glass, I saw my mother standing beside the legacy wall. The one without me on it. Then the helicopter spotlight swept across the windows, washing everything white. Ryan's photos, Dad's store, the dog in the Santa hat. For one bright second, all of it disappeared under the glare. And I kept walking. The crash was bad. Bad enough that I forgot the party for the next 7 hours. A school bus had swerved to avoid a pickup that slid through a stop sign. 2 cars behind it had crashed into each other. The bus driver stayed conscious long enough to keep the kids calm. A little boy had a broken femur. A teacher had a chest injury. A teenage girl was trapped between twisted seats, pale but awake, asking over and over if her brother was okay. I knelt beside her in the mud and took her hand. "My name is Claire," I told her. "I'm going to stay right here until they get you out." She cried silently. "My mom's going to be mad," she whispered. "Not tonight," I said. "Tonight she's just going to be grateful." She squeezed my fingers. That was the work. Not the title. Not the radio. Not the helicopter landing outside a banquet hall like some dramatic movie scene. It was that moment. A child in the dark needing one calm adult to tell her the world had not ended. By sunrise, all 3 critical patients were alive. Not fine. Not untouched. But alive. I went home around 8 a.m. Still wearing the navy dress under my coat shoes, ruined hair smelling like rain fuel and hospital disinfectant. There were 31 missed calls. Mom, Dad, Ryan, Ashley. 2 voicemails from my mother. 1 text from Ryan. "You made everything about yourself. Hope you're happy." I stared at it for a long time. Then I deleted it. Not because it didn't hurt, because not every wound deserves a shrine. I showered, changed into sweatpants, and slept for 4 hours. When I woke up, the story was everywhere. Channel 6 had run footage of the helicopter landing outside Millbrook Pines, then connected it to the school bus crash and the emergency response that saved 3 lives. They didn't turn my family's emails into a scandal. Dana was sharp, but she wasn't cruel. She only said community members are now asking why one of Millbrook's most respected emergency medical leaders was missing from local recognition for more than a decade. The internet did the rest. Former patients commented. A firefighter posted, "Claire Whitaker is the reason half of us know how to keep calm on a bad scene." A mother wrote, "My daughter is alive because Claire answered the radio." Natalie sent me a screenshot from Millbrook High. The Distinguished Alumni display will be updated this month to include previously omitted honorees. Previously omitted. That was one way to say erased. At noon, my father came to my house. I saw his truck through the front window. For a moment, I almost didn't answer. Then I remembered that dignity is not hiding. I opened the door. Dad stood on my porch holding his hat in both hands. He looked older in daylight. Smaller somehow. "Claire," he said. I waited. He looked past me into the living room, maybe expecting to be invited in. I didn't move. He cleared his throat. "Your mother's upset." There it was. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "We hurt you." "Your mother's upset." I leaned against the doorframe. "A lot of mothers were upset last night," I said. "Some of them had children in ambulances." He flinched. Good. He needed to. "Claire." I didn't know things had gone that far. "You wrote the email." His jaw tightened. "That was years ago." "Yes," I said. "And it worked for years." He looked down. I was trying to protect the family name. I let out a quiet laugh. "From me." He didn't answer. That was an answer. I looked at the man whose approval I had once chased like oxygen. I carried the family name into flooded roads, Dad. Into wrecked cars, into hospital rooms where people prayed to hear one more heartbeat. I never embarrassed your name. You just didn't understand honor unless it was standing behind a cash register. His eyes filled. I had never seen my father cry. Not when Grandma died. Not when the store flooded. Not when Ryan crashed the delivery van and cost them $6,000 in repairs. But a tear slipped down his cheek on my porch. And I felt almost nothing. That scared me more than anger would have. "I'm sorry," he said finally. The words came late. Too late for the girl who waited at windows. Too late for the daughter cropped out of Christmas. Too late to make Table 18 feel like a mistake instead of a message. But not too late to be true. "I believe you're sorry now," I said. but I don't know if you're sorry you hurt me or sorry people found out." He closed his eyes. For once, I did not rush to make him comfortable. He nodded slowly. "I deserve that." "Yes," I said. "You do." He asked if we could talk more someday. I told him maybe. Not yes, not no, maybe. Because forgiveness is not a performance you give. So the person who hurt you can feel redeemed. It is a door you may or may not open after you rebuild the house they burned down. My mother didn't come that day. She sent a text. "Claire, I never meant to erase you. I just didn't know how to explain your choices to people." I typed several replies and deleted all of them. Finally, I wrote, "You didn't have to explain me. You had to love me." She didn't answer for 3 days. When she did, it was only one sentence. "I don't know how to fix this." I looked at the message for a long time. Then I wrote back, "Start by telling the truth when my name comes up." That was all. A month later, Millbrook High held a small ceremony for the updated alumni wall. I almost didn't go. I didn't need a plaque. I didn't need applause from people who had laughed because my father gave them permission. But Natalie said, "It's not just for you." She was right. So I went. Not in uniform, not in a dramatic dress. Just black pants, a cream sweater, and the pearl earrings I had worn to the anniversary party. This time when I walked into the auditorium, there was a seat reserved for me in the front row. My name was spelled correctly. Claire Whitaker. Not Claire Lawson. Not Ryan's sister. Not the daughter who left. Just me. The principal spoke about service. Captain Mason spoke about the school bus crash, keeping the details respectful. One of the teenagers from the crash came with her mother. She was on crutches wearing a purple hoodie, cheeks pink with embarrassment when people clapped for her. After the ceremony, she hugged me, hard. Her mother cried into my shoulder and whispered, "Thank you for bringing my baby home." I closed my eyes. That was the only legacy I needed. My parents stood near the back. Ryan wasn't there. Ashley wasn't there. I wasn't surprised. After the plaque was unveiled, my mother approached me slowly. She looked at my name on the wall, then at me. For once, she didn't try to smooth the moment into something prettier. "I saw the photo they used," she said. "It was a picture from the Briar Creek flood rescue. I was soaked to the bone hair, plastered to my face, one arm around an elderly woman wrapped in a blanket. I looked tired," I said. "You looked brave," she said. The words landed softly, not enough to erase anything, but enough to mark a beginning. My father stood beside her, hands in his coat pockets. "I brought something," he said. He handed me a small envelope. Inside was an old photo. Me at 17 standing on a ladder in Lawson Hardware hanging Christmas garland. The uncropped version. I stared at it. There I was, young, focused, trying so hard to make everything straight. Dad's voice broke. I found it in the office. I ran my thumb over the edge of the photo. For years I thought the worst thing was being unseen. But there is something even worse. Being seen then deliberately removed. I looked up at him. "Don't give this to me like it fixes things," I said. He swallowed. "I know. Good." I put the photo in my purse. Not because I forgave everything. Because that girl deserved to come home with me. Months have passed since that night at Millbrook Pines. Lawson Hardware still opens at 7 every morning. Ryan still runs it. My parents still go to church. People in Millbrook still talk because small towns can turn one night into a season of gossip. But something changed. When I walk into Kroger now, people don't ask if I'm still doing ambulance work. They ask how the emergency response program is going. When the hospital foundation printed its annual report, my mother called before it went out and asked, "Is it okay if they include your name?" I said yes. Then I cried after hanging up. Not because I needed a permission to exist. Because for once she asked. Ryan and I haven't spoken much. He sent one message after the school ceremony. "Must be nice being the town hero now." I didn't respond. There are some people who only understand love as a spotlight. If it moves off them, they think they've been robbed. I don't hate my brother, but I no longer mistake his resentment for my responsibility. That is the lesson it took me half a lifetime to learn. Family can be blood, but respect is behavior. Legacy is not a wall of perfect photos. It is not a business sign, a last name, a front table, or a speech delivered into a microphone by people who only remember the parts of you they can control. Legacy is what remains after the room stops clapping. It is the life you build when nobody cheers. It is the child who breathes because you stayed calm. It is the stranger who remembers your voice on the worst night of their life. It is the younger version of you finally realizing she was never less worthy just because the people at home were too small to see her fully. For years I thought being left out meant I wasn't enough, but that night taught me something. Some families don't erase you because you failed. They erase you because your strength exposes their smallness. I stopped waiting for them to save me a seat. I stopped begging them to say my name. And I stopped confusing their silence with my worth. If your family ever made you feel invisible, drop a 1 in the comments. If you finally chose your dignity over their approval, drop a 2. And if you're still in that painful middle place, still waiting for someone to save you a seat, let this be your reminder. You were never the empty chair. You were the legacy they were too proud to recognize.